If you've been paying attention lately, and let's be honest, we know you have, you might feel like the world's just getting squeezed. Like all its complexity is being systematically filtered down into just two simple columns.
Two boxes.
Yeah, exactly. Two boxes. Like every single issue from, I don't know, global economics to what we eat for dinner has to be viewed through this one really narrow binary.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to take a deep breath and step back to look at the mechanics of this. We're diving into how our default way of processing information, especially these really complex human issues, has become filtered almost entirely by the political binary.
Right.
The constant overwhelming lens of red versus blue. And the sources we've gathered today, they explore exactly what this filter is costing us.
And the problem that's laid out in all this material is it's pretty profound. What started out as something necessary for civic organization.
Just a way to organize politics. It's exactly. The whole Democrat versus Republican dichotomy, it's morphed into something else entirely. It's become a foundational filter for viewing existence itself. It's moved way beyond just defining policy. Now it's defining personal identity, moral righteousness, and even truth.
And the cost, as we found in the analysis, is just staggering. So our mission today is pretty straightforward. We are going to unpack what the research calls the binary trap. We really need to detail the concrete cognitive costs this filter imposes on our critical thinking, on our individuality. And then we'll get into the practical steps for how to, break the spell and reclaim your own perspective.
And that's an urgent task. I mean, this political filter, it's not just influencing our decisions anymore. It's starting to replace our basic ability to reason for ourselves and value nuance. We have to understand how that shift is happening before we can even think about reversing it.
Okay, so let's unpack this big idea in our first segment. The political lens has somehow become the mind's default setting.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Default.
It's not something we consciously choose anymore, is it? It's like we're operating through that filter before we even get to the facts.
That's probably the most unsettling finding in this research. It's often an automatic application. It's almost like a browser setting you forgot you even turned on.
Ah, that's a great way to put it.
I mean, think about it. A new piece of information comes your way. Let's say it's a study on housing policy or a report on some local bond project. Your mind doesn't start with, okay, what are the facts here? The analysis points to this really critical and I'd say destructive shift in the kind of questions we ask ourselves first. We now instinctively, often subconsciously, we ask, which side does this benefit?
That is the single most defining shift, because the second you ask that question, which side does this benefit, you've already framed it.
You framed it.
Whatever the information is, it's now a zero-sum political fight. You're not looking for an answer anymore. You're just looking for a winning strategy for your team.
Exactly. And that political framing comes before two much more fundamental questions we used to prioritize. Questions like, is this true? Or is this moral? The priorities have completely flipped. The tribal affiliation of an idea, which team is backing it, has become more important than whether it's actually based in fact or has any ethical standing.
But doesn't this inversion, doesn't serve some kind of purpose? Humans are kind of wired for tribal thinking, right? For mental shortcuts.
They are.
So where do the sources draw the line between, a useful category that helps us sort the world and this destructive binary trap?
That's a crucial question. And the analysis suggests the trap begins when that shortcut completely replaces critical thinking. So look, categories of Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, that's useful descriptive language. It gives us a framework.
Sure.
But the trap springs when that framework becomes prescriptive, when it starts telling us what we must think and what we must feel and who we must oppose. That's the trap. And the problem is this mechanism just reduces the entire complex, vast, colorful world
Into black and white.
stark black and white. It takes the messy, multifaceted nature of reality, and it just flattens it into this easily digestible, highly polarized red or blue choice. And that shortcut feels easy, but the sources argue it comes at a huge and often invisible cognitive price.
Let's ground that in an example. Say there's a local debate about redesigning an intersection to reduce traffic accidents. It's a purely logistical engineering problem.
But under this default setting, the first questions aren't about traffic flow.
Or pedestrian safety.
No, it's, is the mayor who proposed this a Democrat or a Republican? And suddenly, the quality of the asphalt or the placement of a crosswalk becomes a proxy war for national politics. The moment that happens, you're already prioritizing loyalty over good engineering.
That makes perfect sense. And that price you mentioned, that constant intellectual trade-off that brings us right into the consequences. The analysis calls it the danger of the narrative mindset. I mean, when you're operating only inside a narrative, your main goal isn't understanding reality anymore, is it?
No, not at all.
It's just reinforcing the story that your side is always right and the other side is fundamentally flawed.
The first danger they detail is this profound loss of nuance in humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Think about really complex human issues
Yeah.
like poverty, addiction, even managing public lands.
Yeah, things that don't have easy answers.
Exactly. These are subjects that demand empathy, local context, multifaceted solutions. But once they get processed through that binary filter, they're instantly flattened into slogans.
Wow.
The intellectual depth just gets stripped away, and all you're left with is the most easily chantable, easily shareable soundbite.
And the sources gave this really powerful, almost uncomfortable detail on that flattening effect. It's not just policy that gets flattened, it's the way we see the people around us. Our neighbors stop being flesh and blood people, and instead they just become these avatars of an ideology.
It's pure symbolism.
It is. You stop seeing a person who's struggling with a complex life, trying to balance work and family, and instead you just see a walking embodiment of an opposing viewpoint, a symbol you have to correct or, just dismiss. That's incredibly isolating.
That dehumanization is the catalyst for the second danger. Trading genuine critical thinking for what the analysis calls tribal reflex.
A reflex.
Yeah, think about how efficient that reflex is. It requires almost zero energy. You're just outsourcing your decision-making to the group.
If our team says X.
The reflex is automatic. We defend X, often with a lot of emotion and certainty. If their team says Y, we instinctively attack Y, and the defense or the attack, it happens even if you haven't really grasped the details of X or Y.
And the most dangerous part of that reflex, which the research flagged again and again, is that this defense, this attack, it often happens without reading past the headline.
The headline is all that matters.
The entire judgment is based on affiliation, on the jersey color, not on the content. We just become predictable, easily manipulated, and worst of all, an echo of a predetermined story.
And what's so interesting here is that the reflex prevents any kind of growth. If you're always defending the party line, you can never admit when your team is wrong.
Or when the other team accidentally has a good idea.
Right. You can never do that.
Yeah.
And that rigidity, it creates these huge blind spots that, well, reality doesn't forgive.
So if we pull back, what does all this outsourcing and reflexive defense mean for us as individuals? The sources talk about a deep substitution effect happening. Our unique moral compass, that thing we build from personal experience and reflection and values, it's being silently replaced by a pre-packaged party platform.
It's a template.
It's like downloading a complete identity kit. You don't have to build it yourself. You just have to click agree to the terms and conditions.
And that gets to the ultimate casualty here, which is the search for truth. The crucial insight is that when we're stuck operating at these ideological extremes where the binary lives, we fundamentally miss the truth.
Because it's not at the extremes.
Truth is rarely found at the extreme ends of the spectrum, where everything is neat and tidy and absolutely certain. Reality, and therefore truth, it lives in the messy, uncomfortable middle where contradictions exist. That messy middle is where human problems really live, and it's the one place the binary filter is expertly designed to make us avoid at all costs. It demands certainty and life. Well, life rarely offers it.
That dive into the cost is so necessary, but now we need to shift. We need to focus on the remedy. That realization, that truth lives in the messy middle. It moves us from diagnosis to, well, prescription. So let's talk about breaking the spell. This is where you can find those aha moments and the practical steps to reclaim some agency.
The source material offers a really clear call to action, which I think you can sum up as the refusal.
The refuse.
We have to consciously refuse to be a predictable echo. We need to stop granting that automatic loyalty. And the reason for this refusal is structural. It's because the world itself is just too vast, too colorful, and too complicated to be viewed in stark black and white.
Or just red and blue.
Or just red and blue. To insist on the binary is to insist on being intellectually blind to most of reality's texture. The complexity of the world demands a complexity of thought that the two-party system just can't provide.
That's a powerful idea. But practically, if the political filter has become the mind's default setting, like we talked about, how do you manually override that? It sounds simple, just stop. But fighting a subconscious reflex is, incredibly hard.
It is hard,
Yeah.
and it requires constant vigilance. The most effective antidote is a simple but really challenging step. Step back from the narrative.
Hmm.
The first job when you encounter new information is self-correction. When you feel that automatic tribal reflex kicking in, that urge to defend or attack just based on who said it, you have to pause.
That pause is everything, because instead of looking at the source of the idea, we have to look at ideas based on their own merit,
Their own merit.
independent of the jersey color of the person or the group speaking them. I was really struck by the simplicity of the tests they presented in the research. If a good idea comes from the perceived other side, it's still a good idea. You have to evaluate it on its merits, completely divorced from affiliation.
And the reverse is true.
Right. Conversely, if a terrible idea comes from your side, it's still a terrible idea, regardless of your loyalty. That shift in focus back to merit and away from tribal belonging, that's the key to reclaiming critical thought.
It's the difference between being a fan and being an objective observer.
Yeah.
And when you watch a sports game as a fan, you cheer for your team no matter what.
Oh, yeah. Regardless of their flaws.
But when you switch to being an objective manager, you have to assess the performance of every single player, no matter who pays them. We need to become the objective managers of our own minds.
And that leads right to the main goal here, which is cognitive control. This isn't just about being a better citizen, it's about reclaiming intellectual self-respect.
Absolutely. The final reminder from the sources is this fantastic analogy for internal sovereignty that we should all keep in mind. Do not let a political party rent space in your head for free.
I love that.
The moment they occupy your internal dialogue, driving your emotions, dictating your knee-jerk reactions without your conscious agreement, they are controlling your perspective. This whole exercise of breaking the spell is about recognizing that control mechanism and moving to reclaim your own perspective.
And when you do that, when you reclaim that perspective, you find this space, that messy middle where you're allowed to hold contradictory thoughts, where you can find common ground with people you previously dismissed as just avatars, and where you can prioritize truth and morality over a simple partisan win. This has been such an essential deep dive into the mechanisms that are, eroding our personal critical thinking. To quickly summarize for you, the political binary is an overwhelming shortcut that our minds have defaulted to, but the cost of that shortcut is just astronomical. It costs us nuance, it costs us our ability to see people as human, it costs us critical thinking, and ultimately it costs us our individuality.
And the solution lies in consciously stepping back from the narrative.
Yeah.
We have to evaluate the merit of an idea over the affiliation of the person or group delivering it. We have to embrace the fact that complex human reality is inherently contradictory and messy, and that's where truth lives.
So as you go through your day today and you process the next piece of news or hear the next divisive argument, just ask yourself that fundamental self-correcting question. Am I judging this idea based on its quality, or am I just judging the team that delivered it?
And I want to leave you with one final provocative thought based on this analysis. If we accept that reality lives in that messy, uncomfortable middle instead of at the certain extremes,
Yeah.
what deeply held belief or opinion are you currently defending or attacking solely because of the side you feel pressure to belong to? What truth are you avoiding simply because it's inconvenient to your team's narrative?
A truly challenging point to mull over, and an excellent compass for the days ahead. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We encourage you to apply the lens of individual merit to the next piece of information you encounter. We'll catch you next time.